Hello, let me introduce myself. My name is Mary Wicca. Some may remember me from the independent films Which Way and Which Way Out that I wrote and directed. They're both now available on DVD with Amazon. Okay, and they're also available on Blu-ray, but you'll have to contact me so that I can send them out to you. I do want to take a moment to thank Psychic T for the opportunity to share a few stories that not too many are privileged to hear about. Now, I met T back in 2009 during the excitement of the making of the first film. Although the films were fiction, the core of the story was based on a house that I lived in twice in my life. Once with my cousins when I was very young, and another time when I was a teenager. I always had an awareness for the paranormal. My abilities of awareness were a bit more heightened at that time. There were two ghosts that haunted the house. One was warm, welcoming, and very comforting. The other was so angry it felt evil. But after researching at the town hall from the family plots up on the hill behind the house, he wasn't evil. It was guilt that made him angry, and he was hiding a hideous secret of what he had mistakenly done. My two films don't give away all the details, but enough to carry on a what-if scenario if he still had descendants that lived with the stigmatism of his angry spirit. The mystery of her, the warm spirit, had disappeared. She had a memorial stone there at the graveyard, and there was no record of what happened to her or where she went to. I know it's a bit backwards, but I'm still working on finishing the complete story of the Chronicles of the Clifton Estate. That will embellish the fictional story that I wasn't able to put into the films, and also tell the true part of the story that both these ghosts had shown me of their lives. And I'll be able to tell about their tragic deaths that haunted the house until she was found and freed, and share how he was forgiven too, and his earthly bond was broken, and no longer haunts the house that still stands renovated into apartments now. I do have a few experiences to share that were both inspiring during some dark times, and a few that were terrifying. I have many more, but you'll have to read about them in the book that I've been working on called Shadows Apart. Now this is a story that I call Please See No Evil. One disturbing image came to me one spring morning as I got on the school bus. It was such a quick flash as I took each step onto the bus, and as I looked at the bus driver, and I wanted so badly to tell her. But how was a girl of only 10 years old supposed to tell the friendly bus driver something so dreadful? I held my breath, and I took a seat on the passenger side above the wheel well in the back of the bus. I had a sick feeling in my stomach, and my head hurt with tension. I braced myself because I knew what was about to happen. After about the fourth pickup, the school bus started to pull forward, and just as she got into second gear, a dog, Shepherd Mix, came darting out of the yard on the right-hand side and lunged at the bus. The dog did this every morning, but today was different. The bus swerved and it slammed into a bed stop. Everyone on the bus was jerked forward and screamed except for me. The bus driver quickly checked all her passengers to be sure that no one was hurt. Everyone was fine. She then rushed outside and met up with the owner running after the dog just a little bit too late. Everyone inside the bus rushed to the passenger side and looked out the window and screeched and cried. And I looked out the window. Just below me was the dog that I saw in my vision earlier that morning. The one that I so much wanted to tell the bus driver about and regretfully didn't. He yelped the little bit of breath that he had left, and he looked up at me as if he said to me, "Why didn't I save him?" Tears streamed down my face, and I silently mouthed to him as I saw the life leave his body, "I'm so sorry." For the longest time, I felt evil for seeing such terrible things before they happened. I didn't know who to talk to, or if I was supposed to stop them from happening. And what if I was making them happen? I didn't like feeling guilty or responsible, so I shut out the world even more. Just a few years earlier, this was a time when I lived in the city with my mom in Massachusetts. I was about 8 years old. I was on my way to the store just 2 city blocks away to buy cigarettes from my mom for 55 cents. Well, she gave me $1, and the rest I was going to buy some penny candy. Suddenly I stopped, and I felt that dread, sick feeling again. Oh no, no, stop it. I don't want to see, as I said out loud to myself. And I stopped halfway up the first block, and I tried to shut my eyes, but then I only saw more details. A block and a half further, I saw in my mind a heavy-set Spanish woman. She was angry, and she had the folding door shut in the phone booth. She was arguing with somebody on the phone. She had a little girl about 4 years old with her. The little girl had long, dark ponytail, and she deliberately swayed back and forth, and she happily skipped around the phone booth, completely oblivious to her mother's anger. I didn't like where this vision was going. Anxiety built up, and as I held my breath for the next seconds of this apparition, I just couldn't stop. In this vision, the little girl went around to the street side of the phone booth and slipped off the curb and fell to her knees. She stood up and dusted off the dirt from her white tights. Her mother was still focused on screaming into the phone. In this vision, I saw a blue 4-door sedan, driven by an elderly man, and creeping along close to the curb, barely missing the phone booth, but ran right into the little girl, dragging her half down the block, never even realized what he had done. I opened my eyes only after a half a minute, and I started to run down the block to the phone booth at the end of the street. I saw the angry woman yelling into the phone, and the little girl with the long dark ponytail and white tights, and I started to run faster, and I yelled, "Hey!" But the woman couldn't hear me. "Get out of the street! Hey! Get out of the street!" The little girl ignored me. I was still a whole block away. Maybe she couldn't hear me. Then I saw the blue 4-door sedan creeping up, so I tried to run faster, yelling at the elderly man in the car, "Stop!" The windows were closed, so I'm sure he couldn't hear me either. I was still too far away. It was too late. It all happened just as I saw it moments ago, and it was as if I was invisible. Why was I cursed to know such horrific things if I couldn't stop them? Again, I felt guilty and responsible for a life lost because I didn't act fast enough. Well, it took me a long time to learn about these terrible visions and not to block them out. I can change events. There's no proof once it's changed, but in my heart, I know it's right. I've suffered a long time with what I thought was a curse until I learned how to understand and use it for good things. I actually used my abilities and brought out my skills, studying at a seminar for 3 years with a high priest and a priestess at Our Lady of Enchantment, and it was a school in Nashua, New Hampshire. It was during a very dark time in my life when I read tarot cards, and I used astrology as a guide for about 4 years, with all the big psychic lines, the 900 lines, Kenny Kingston, Dionne Warwick, Psychic Friends, Psychic Network, just to name a few. And then later I created a chart that I called Life Phase Chart. I was very healing to other people while I was broken from the tragedies and illness of my own life. It was actually healing me and making me stronger. I eventually took my readings to the public, face-to-face readings, one-on-one, group readings, dinner parties, graduations. Occasionally I worked along with a fellow psychic at big functions. Eventually it became too exhausting. Even though it was a living, people feel that paying for the reading is gratitude enough. They don't realize, but they suck the energy right out of my soul, leaving me vulnerable to negative energies and physical illnesses once again. This next event was during a time that I put my readings out there for the public, and I was well known by even the city officials and many prominent residents. It was in the midsummer and almost midday on Sunday. I had that familiar feeling, and I knew something was about to project in my mind. I let it play out, and I paid close attention to the details of this vision. It was very close to a vision that I saw as a child, and I didn't stop on time. This time, there was a little girl about 7 years old that ran down the church steps ahead of her father to get in the car. She darted out between two parked cars and got too close to oncoming traffic. I saw a red pickup truck hit the little girl as she ran out around the driver's side to get into the car. I quickly looked ahead for a church. I saw it up ahead on the right. People were coming down the stairs, and a few were still congregating along the walkway to the sidewalk. Well, I double parked beside the cars that I saw the little girl emerge from. I got out and I waited. Just as I visualized, the little girl ran ahead of her father. I caught the little girl by the shoulder before she got to the street. Cars began to back up behind my double parked truck and impatiently honked their horns. There was too much traffic going the other way for them to go around. The father turned and panicked and pasted his face. "Hey, what are you doing?" I smiled and I took the little girl's hand. "Let's wait for your dad, okay?" Then walked her from the edge of the sidewalk and waited for the father to catch up. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to alarm you. My name is Mary," and I handed him my business card. "I'm a local tarot reader. Sometimes I have premonitions, and I understand if you think I'm crazy, that's okay. But I had to prevent this one from happening." The man was speechless as he took my card. He realized what could have happened, but he was in denial and was more embarrassed for not keeping his daughter closer. "Thank you, but I got it from here," he said. All I could do was smile in relief, and I went back to my truck. I smiled and I waved at the impatient driver of the red truck behind me, and I felt good that I saved him too from a horrific future that he could have had. I didn't care if I looked like a lunatic. I wasn't going to live with another regret of not speaking up. My premonition never happened, and that was good enough for me. That's just a few of the stories that I'd like to share on how lessons are learned to use one's ability for the greater good. But sometimes it can be a little scary. There are times when my energy gets depleted and there's no one or nothing to regenerate it. This next one I call speakers. This happened at my grandmother's house across the road from where I lived with my father and two little sisters. We stayed with her when my father was away on the road with his music. 5 years exactly had passed since my Aunt Donna passed away. It was only about 3 years that my stepmother passed away. It was New Year's Eve once again. I never quite let go of all the emptiness. I was close to my Aunt Donna. I was 15 and matured faster than I'd like to have. I was strong and silent on the outside, but I was weak and vulnerable on the inside. I knew I was different in ways I couldn't talk about with family. I knew they just wouldn't understand, because I too didn't understand. It was early evening at Grammy's cabin, where she had a few of her women friends over, along with me and my two little sisters, now 8 and 9 years old. Grammy was at the piano, playing old songs from her show days, playing a few she wrote herself. She hand-wrote the words on lined paper so everyone could sing along, and I proudly still have those songs in my possession. Grammy always recorded our parties, as she called them, on the stereo cassette recorder, and that had a great big box speakers on each side. It was 8 p.m., and suddenly I felt a bit faint. I got up to go use the bathroom, and when I came out, I heard a rushing of water beneath the floorboards just under my feet, and I felt feverish. "Grammy, is there water pipes under here?" She asked me. "No, are you okay?" Jenny was one of my grandmother's friends. She was about in her mid-30s. She came over and she felt my forehead. It was hot and clammy. "I'll get you some water." She entered the tiny hallway and stopped short of the kitchen, as if she hit a glass door, and was blinded by a flash, and was thrown back against the wall of the tiny hallway. "Whoa! Did you see that? It was a flash of light. Something pushed me." Grammy got up and she pushed stop on the cassette deck and said to my two sisters, "Shh, stay there, be quiet on the couch. Denny, are you okay? Is there someone in there?" Well, I fell into the chair and I couldn't get up. I was drained of all my energy and I was groggy. Denny said, "I didn't see anyone, but I saw a flash and I felt someone push me out of the kitchen." The speakers started to crackle with static and whispers so faint but clear. "Don't go in there, Denny. Don't go in there. Don't go in there." Stella, my grandmother's friend, grabbed her portable tape recorder and she pushed record. Stella was a proclaimed paranormal hunter of the sorts. "Who are you? What do you want? Why can't she go in there? What do you want? Where are you?" The whispers on the speaker grew more frustrated and less audible as Stella kept asking questions. I got up and I took Denny's hand and I went into the kitchen. I still couldn't speak. My eyes were watered and I shivered, and the temperature instantly plummeted to a chill where you could see both mine and Denny's breath for a moment, and as quickly as it came, it warmed and was gone. I had to shake myself out of this trance. How did I get in here? Denny looked at me wide-eyed and unbelieving what she just witnessed. Stella was still babbling on. "Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! It was Laura! She was here!" She played back the tape. Laura was my sister's mother that passed away a few years earlier. She didn't think of Donna, my grandmother's sister who passed away on the anniversary of this very night. I came back into the living room, recovered, calm, smiling with a sense of being loved. "No, Stella, it was Donna. She wanted us to know that she loved us and will always watch over us. I knew the message was meant for just me." Stella was still frantically recording by the speakers that no longer crackled. "It was Donna? Oh my God! Oh my God, Donna, are you still there?" I had a sense of peace. "No, Stella, she's gone." The speakers went silent. Everyone sat quiet. Later that year, my grandmother had the tape analyzed because it was so very surreal. It was the only thing that I wanted of hers when my grandmother passed away, in which my father claimed not to know where it was. Many years later, during another dark, vulnerable time of my life, here's another story I call Rogue Ghosts. It was 4:30 a.m., and I had been tossing and turning now for like 5 hours trying to sleep. Exhaustion was winning me over. I rolled onto my right side and I pulled the pillow to my chest. As I closed my eyes, I could see the daylight on the horizon. It illuminated the windows. When I finally surrendered to drift, I gradually felt a warm sensation pressing down on my left side, from my head to my shoulders, my hip, and my leg. And at the same time, I heard a low vibration that was louder as the pressure increased. I couldn't move a muscle to shake loose from this grip. My mind was in a panic. My breath was pressed out of me. My vocal cords were paralyzed, just as the rest of my body. I could hear over the vibrating tone a woman just in front of my knees whispering, and a man just behind my knees whispering back. My eyes could only open to a sliver to see these two blurry forms holding me down, arguing with one another. I couldn't tell what they were saying. As enraged as I was being held down, I couldn't even push a breath out to tell them to stop. My anger turned to terror when I saw the pillow that I was holding begin to move to my face. I quickly thought of the one spirit that I always knew that was looking out for me. I focused beyond the intruders, and I mentally beckoned to my Aunt Donna. Almost instantly, the bright flash washed over the dawnlit room, and the unwelcome spirits were gone. I bolted up on the bed and I yelled at the two trespassers, "Get out! Get out!" I threw the pillow that was aimed for my face to the floor. My heart was racing. My body was shaking. To this day, I still don't know who they were or what they wanted, but I was glad they were gone, and I'm sure enough, I did a spooking that day. That certainly hasn't been the first or the last time ghosts have been physical with me. There have been times that I've woken up with unexplained bruises and deep scratches in places that I know I couldn't reach, and that's sleeping alone. There are so many stories that I'd like to share. Some just are so long and fantastic, only those that were there would believe. Well, I do want to thank you all for listening to the few of my experiences. I have not had a normal life. You could say it's been fairly paranormal, but I do hope that I can help some of you feel comfortable enough to know that you're not alone in some of these strange phenomenons. And please, to all of those that you get readings, remember, whether it's a free reading or a paid reading, give back some genuine gratitude. It restores just a little bit of the energy that's given to you. And I want to thank you, T. I am so excited and so proud of you on how you've grown, and I'm so honored to be a part of your projects. 'Tis the season for happy hauntings, everyone.